I am excited to announce a new partnership in my skiing. Effective immediately, I am pleased to announce John Caldwell as my new sprint coach. I am looking forward to taking advantage of Mr. Caldwell's expertise and experience as a former Olympian and a former successful national team coach. John will be an excellent addition to my current team, which includes John Callahan and Mr. Caldwell's nephew, Zach. I have made great gains in my distance skiing under Zach, but I have been displeased with my gains in sprinting. I believe Mr. Caldwell will help me excel in all areas of cross-country skiing.
Maybe even drinking homebrew. Well, I mean, I'm excited about this new job, as they say in the U.S. ski team releases. Noah's shown some promise in distance racing, and it's pretty clear that half the races require an ability to sprint, and so I'm hoping we can improve his sprinting ability. That's about all.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Will you be focusing on Noah's sprinting at the end of mass start distance races, or his sprinting in individual sprints on the World Cup?
That's right. There are a lot of, I have a lot of drills, a lot of ideas on sprinting, and I don't want to go into them here. The Norwegians might be monitoring this press conference, so but just leave it at that. Well, I have a lot of ideas. Yeah.
And this marks a nice break from your retirement. But how long has it been since you've coached?
How long since I've coached? That's a good question. You know, my short-term memory isn't so good anymore, but it must have been at least 3 or 4 days, I would say, since I last coached. Yeah. I keep current, you know.
John's coming back with renewed energy after a short break.
That's right. The coaching runs through the family, you know. My wife coaches me, and I've got that kid over at Stratton. I forget his name. He coaches, you know, and Tim does a little coaching. Peter used to coach. I got 2 grandkids who are working now. They're both coaching. One of them's coaching crew. One's coaching soccer, basketball, stuff like that.
So you really have a resource to go to if you find that
definitely.
The last few days have left you a little behind.
Yes. And I'd like to say this too. When I was in college, I skied 4 events. Seriously, jumping was my best event. I was better in jumping than cross country, but I did Nordic combined. And in jumping those days, a lot depended on distance. And your distance depended on the speed on the takeoff. And the speed on the takeoff depended on your start. And so some of us developed this running style on skis. Now these are 8-foot jumpers, but if you can move 8-foot jumpers pretty fast, you've got a certain advantage. So you start down the end run, moving real fast. Well, we used to practice that, and that's just one example of some of my experiences. I think we'll make big improvements.
Noah, do you plan to utilize any more of John's expertise in jumping and his background in jumping in your I
think there's a huge crossover. I think that being able to jump well is a sign of great explosive muscles and explosive technique, and I think that correlates very well with sprinting.
Of course, we saw the jump on the sprint course up in Quebec City. I mean, a lot of people were thrown off by that, but you know, with a little bit of training, you got to be
able to adapt.
And for both of you, Noah's time in Putney is starting to run short. I think he's off for the Tour de Ski very soon here. Mm-hmm. How do you envision this partnership working functionally?
We didn't make that clear. We're not starting that until after the season. I give him a few ideas, but we aren't starting to. This is going to take a little time. We can't jump in now. And I'll be following him during the season, watching the movies and getting comments, and we'll start in next spring after the present season's over.
John and I will be in contact with winter. I would expect 3 or 4 times a day.
Sure, that would be plenty.
Just to get back to the basics, we're talking about a sprint coach here. When was the last time you coached sprinting?
Sprinting? Recently, not for a while, but listen, the same principles, the same training applies. I know sprints. I mean, it's easy. We coached you 2 guys at Putney. We used to do sprint starts. Don't you remember? We'd start. I'd get out there and race you guys, beat you all the time on sprints. Start, here, 10-meter sprint. You ready, set, go.
John, do you anticipate any conflict with any of Noah's existing support staff and coaching?
Well, if they're not afraid to drink a homebrew once in a while, I don't think we'll have any problems.
Noah, does this mark does this broadening of your scope mark a broadening in your overall goals in the sport?
Well, I fully expect to be competitive in every race I enter, which includes the downtown Aspen sprints, which are 80 meters long. That's kind of a big goal of mine for next season.
Okay.
That would be good. Yeah, I like Aspen. Nice town.
Yeah.
Around the park down there.
Yeah, right in downtown. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The Golden Horns. That's still open.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I've spent time in there.
Well, and we're going to move on to the Swallow the next day, right?
Oh, good. Well, that's no problem. Oh, of course, yeah. Well, I've done alpine events anyway. That we can do.
The way the sport is going, with and skiing in general is going towards the judge sports and the all the new events in the Olympics, I feel it's just a matter of time before there's judges in cross-country races to judge your skills off the jumps.
I would think so. I would think so. We'll be ready for that. We'll be ready for that.
So are you guys going to be starting to develop some tricks? In other words, can we be looking for any
that
sort
would
of
be part of
any
again,
signature
again,
moves?
I don't want to get too specific because even the Swedes might be monitoring this. But that, yes, that would be one of the goals. We would practice tricks and things like that. That's part of the skills necessary. I've coached trampolining too, and I expect that'll come in handy.
I believe the ability to throw a double backflip is going to be very helpful in all levels of skiing.
It is. Well, I've done diving. You knew I did diving coaching too? Yes, well, sure. I used to be a diver.
In the skate technique, I seem to recall some experimentation with a V4 technique. Do you plan to roll that out on the World Cup anytime soon?
It depends how Let's see how Noah's doing, what progress he's making, and how he comes with the sprints, because that's tied in seriously with sprints. But once again, I've got some good friends in Finland, and I as much as I like them, I don't want to divulge too much here. I just we'll take that as it comes along.
Noah, could you talk a little bit more about your goals in sprinting this winter and in the future?
Well, because we'll be just starting this winter, not communicating too often, like I said, only maybe 3 or 4 times a day, I think we're going to focus more on the traditional sprints on the World Cup. I expect to be winning World Cup sprints by the end of this season, but we don't want to get into the really short stuff until next season.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to look at really trying to win the 100-meter world record, set that record, and that kind of stuff. That'll come down the road. I would say at least 7 or 8 months, maybe down in New Zealand next summer.
A few days ago, you were at Stratton Mountain skiing with a lot of juniors and a lot of alpine skiers on the mountain. Do you anticipate more of that style training to get you more comfortable skiing in the large packs and sprint World Cups?
Oh, I think skiing upwards up a busy alpine slope is perfect training.
It is very good, especially if it's crowded, especially skiers coming down. That's one of our training devices, and you have to learn to dodge the skiers, some of whom are out of control. It's a little bit like a sprint, but only they're closing much faster because, you add up the 2 speeds, and it's excellent training. But unfortunately, we can tell, it's okay to tell the Scandinavians this because they don't have many downhill trails or places where they can practice this technique. They'd have to go down to Central Europe to practice it, and then if they showed up down there at a big alpine area in Switzerland, they'd probably throw them off the slope. But over here, it's more of a curiosity, when you're sprinting uphill through skiers flooding down. Then when it's very good on narrow trails, of course, bumpy, narrow trails where you don't know where the downhill ski. Oh, yeah.
We're going to be ready for all different possibilities. Everything from judge sports to a little basketball game in the middle of a ski race. You never know what they're going to throw at you. So.
Yeah, a lot depends, as you know, on the television and who the sponsors are and what kind of sport they want. They got some pretty idiotic sports on television already, and so there's no telling what they might do with cross-country skiing. And that's good. I think we'll come out with some amazing results. I think Well, thanks. If there are no more questions, we have a training session. We have to get right at it.
I thought we talked about trying to win the 100-meter World Cup.
Yeah, well, we'll do that too.
John and I will be in contact with winner. I would expect 3 or 4 times a day.
Sure, that would be plenty. Yeah, we'd have to start off early. You're going to get some comments on this one.